Joining us now is Ojinika Oji Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinex.
And guess who's back? Ayo. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Really excited to see you this morning.
Thank you. I'm excited to see you too.
We have to catch up after the show for sure. Good morning, Rufai. How are you this morning? Showapa. Well, all right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending in the United Arab Emirates, where dignitaries from across the world are attending the Cop28 summit in Dubai. Well, over the weekend, social media was awash with reactions after a published list by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change revealed that Nigeria has the highest number of registered delegates from Africa, with over 1,400 delegates, making it the country with the third highest overall in number of delegates at the conference. Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who last year criticized the proposed emission cuts for Nigeria during the elections, was accompanied by 138 delegates from the State House, including Nigerian-Lebanese billionaire businessman Gilbert Chagoury, who was named as a confidant of the president, elicited more reactions. Let's take a look at this video showing the moment Tinubu arrived at the conference before we take some reactions.
Watch your back, just for the nice.
Yeah. Mr. President. Yes, yeah.
Well, this was sent in by our correspondent, Obietebe George, who you guys spoke with earlier. And, you know, it has elicited a lot of reactions. Let's take this one from Peter Obi, who wrote, "In a twist of sad irony, let me congratulate the giant of Africa, Nigeria, for matching the great China with the same number of contingents at the ongoing COP28 in Dubai. Nigeria's contingent to COP28 totaled 1,411, the same number as the Chinese contingents, while China's budget for 2024 is about $4 trillion. That's about $2,860 per head. Nigeria's budget is about $33 billion. That's about $165 per head. China has a human development index with a ranking of 79 out of 191 countries measured. And Nigeria has a low HDI with a ranking of 163 out of 191 countries measured. Nigeria has more people living in multi-dimensional poverty than China, despite China having 7 times our population. Well, let me take another one from Brother Bath. He wrote, in August 2023, Ajuri Ngelale informed Nigerians that Tinubu has instructed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to freeze the processing of visas for government officials who have no business at ONGA in New York, in line with his broader efforts to cut the cost of governance. In December, Ajuri Ngelale is seen among the crowd of officials that accompanied Tinubu to Dubai at COP28. COP28 is a 13-day event that will cost a lot more money in hotel accommodation than ONGA. It'll be nice for Nigerians to know how much is spent in sponsoring Tinubu and all that accompanied him at COP28. Tinubu and 2 ministers would have been more than enough for this trip in view of the current economic reality in the country. This just has to stop. I mean, this is the rhetoric everywhere, Rufai. I believe even last year at COP27, Nigeria had a small delegation rather. I think it was about 5 of them. If we have that picture up, we had a minister of, I think it was humanitarian affairs and a bunch of others. There it is. About 5 of them. And can you imagine? The number has doubled. If we can pull up a list of the ministers that were out there, we have Federal Ministry of Environment at 53, Ministry of Foreign Affairs 21, Ministry of Environment at 16, Ministry of Petroleum Resources at 12, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change at 9, Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources at 8. Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs at 8. Federal Ministry of Transportation at 7. Federal Ministry of Finance, 7. Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, 6. Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, 6. Federal Ministry of Power. The list goes on, Rufai. But what got me also was the fact that the actual list, which had, maybe the actual climate activists, if we have that, was a lot smaller.
I mean, what do you expect? So it's clear and simple, it's a jamboree. And the part that I just only fault them for, I keep saying, is the fact that they didn't pick Ashwebi.
Ashwebi?
Yeah, because this is a Nigerian party in Dubai.
Okay.
And I'm sure probably a lot of them wanted to go again because, since it's now harder to get into Dubai, and this was what the government first said initially they will have fixed with relationship and interaction with Dubai. Nigerians in Dubai that have jobs are finding it very difficult. Some are coming back home because that problem has not been fixed. So maybe Nigerians that couldn't get into Dubai anywhere, they're like, oh, free party in Dubai. Yeah, okay, let's go. We'll just go on delegation. Boom. And they can't deny them visa because this is COP anyway. Oji, what should also shock you, and that's why I was making a case for Anko and Ashwebi. That's the only part that's missing all of this. What should also shock you is the amount of money that we are now expending to the UAE economy. If the flight tickets alone cost close to $1 billion, how about hotel accommodation and extra code fees? So I subscribe to Bat, what he said. I think the government should print out how much was spent on the extra code of everybody and individual that went on this trip. And that's public accountability. And people should be able to trigger FOI for that. If possible, let's even start by writing FOI to demand how much government spent on that trip so we know for ourselves. Because even in New York, somebody cited, I heard that was how we had a lot of Nigerians too in New York. It's the sad reality of how wasteful people are. Vis-a-vis the economic situation, I'm happy Peter Obi talked about China. China, that is even one of the biggest emitters. You can see we're at par with their delegation. But the Human Development Index of China is a whole lot better. China has brought a lot more people out of poverty. China has grown since they joined WTO in 2001. You can see where the Chinese economy is today. You can see the Chinese budget. But we're at an all-time low. But what do we spend the money on? Frivolous. We just spend on frivolities. Just like we did only last week when we wanted to spend $15 billion to build a new house for the VP. A country like Canada that does well economically, 24 Success Street, I keep telling that story. They've not renovated in a while the official home of the Prime Minister because no Prime Minister there does it because they fear the people. It's also obvious that these are leaders don't even fear the people. Daniel Boala I think he put out something on Twitter recently where he was giving the breakdown of how much government officials collect in ESTA code. I will want government to come out and react to that breakdown. If it's true that some as much as ministers got close to $900 in ESTA code per day, and it's for 13 days, then they must give us the breakdown of how much they spent on this. We can't be saying Nigeria should tighten their belts, but they are going there to do jamboree. They are going there to do item 7.
Yeah.
They are going there to show off.
Well, let's see the list of other delegates, if we can, by states, if we can pull that out. I mean, like I said, it was 138. That was from the State House. Well, Ayo, I wanted to touch more on the people that were there. Like I said, it's about 138 that were from the State House. Yeah. But more than that, over 500 were underneath the federal ministries and, the Nigerian government, which is what Rufai is trying to say. We need to find out how much money was spent on the day. I mean, this is not the first time we're hearing this. Even in Ghana, our neighbor, registered about 618 delegates from Cop28. The figure ranked as the 5th highest in Africa behind Nigeria, Morocco, Kenya, and Tanzania. The list comprises of 95 persons on the official parties list, including Ghana's President Nana Akufo Ado, and 523 on the party overflow list. This figure is almost double the delegation Ghana sent to Cop27 in Egypt, which had about 350. Ghanaians on social media also criticized the size of the delegation. Let's take one tweet from Alfred, who wrote, 27% of them are non-state actors, and very possible that they are privately sponsored, but it is illogical for Ghana to send that many people. Illogical, especially because Ghana's position on climate change is clear. We also don't need 618 people to network with the big wigs of the world. 618 from Ghana.
Well, Kenya had 763, and President Ruto was criticized because he had also talked about cutting government spending. And out of his delegation was the first lady and the second lady. So at least we thank God for small mercies in Nigeria. Our first lady, I don't know if she was part of the delegation or the second lady. They are so in Kenya, in Ghana. So you ask the question, this is not just a Nigerian problem. What is the problem with leadership and cuts and costs on the African continent? I think Rufai spoke to that very well in terms of the fact that it's just a lack of fear for the people. The fact that they can't do what they want to without a lot of backlash, especially from the people, or a lot of consequences. Now let's go to the Nigerian delegates and delegation. Earlier I talked about the estimation by Business Day of how much it must have cost, $800 million naira for the tickets. It's when you examine the list, Oji, that makes it a bit more perhaps provocative for Nigerians that a number of the people who attended or who are attending Cop28 are not people who have direct advocacy or perhaps negotiators when it comes to climate change. I don't want to mention some obvious names who have been trending over the weekend. But when you ask, I've never seen a tweet or post before now about climate change from this person. So I try to think about it. Is the argument the fact that, okay, they want some influencers who will try to be ambassadors for climate change in Nigeria when they come back home? I don't understand the motive of the government or of the choosing of certain people to attend. You know, certain capacities of going. Yes, the private sector, when some people were sponsored by the private sector, I think it's important to note that not all 1,411 people were sponsored by the government. However, about 590 out of those were sponsored by the government. So when I said earlier that it's the opportunity cost of these wastages that we need to consider. We talk about the fact that we have issues and situations around flooding. Rather than sending delegates to a climate change conference in Dubai, let them put that money into tackling flooding and expanding roads, drainages in the nations, or building more roads and infrastructure. For every time we waste money on frivolities like this, it is a cost on what could have been paid for. So the child who could not go to school because cannot afford to go to school or eat. Hospitals, people that die from maternal mortality because they couldn't, hospitals are not functioning. The president has to demonstrate, not just say about cutting costs, that he's serious about it.
And that's the conversation. Also over the weekend, Dr. Abati, before I come to you, there was the story that, Tinubu did not speak at COP on Friday. Well, on Saturday, the president made a remarkable speech at the summit on methane and other non-greenhouse gases at COP28. Tinubu shared the platform with the president of COP28, Dr. Sultan Ahmed Al-Jaber, the United States Special Envoy on Climate, John Kerry, and the Chinese Envoy on Climate, Xi Zhenhu, where he pointed out that the world's biggest economies, the US and China, are the biggest culprits in greenhouse emissions.
The earth has been injured, not by us mainly, by the big economies. And I'm glad two of them are here. John Kerry and the China making pledges is very good. And we are with you. Even though we are the least beneficiary of what has happened. Sitting there hearing you, I know I have to commit ourselves. And we have been doing so before today. We are committed to critical steps to reduce methane emission by ensuring flared gas are eliminated. There's a huge penalty for that. There's equally a huge incentive to do so. What I know of Africa is the fact that the risking in additional investment and technological know-how, it is very necessary. and the largest economies that have benefited immensely should do more real fast, because their health need healing and is crying for attention more quickly. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Abati, this is in line with what he said during the election. He did say that the US and other economies have contributed more to dangers of climate change and the severe weather conditions that we find ourselves here in Africa. And he's charged them to do more. Dr. Abati.
Well, first, clarification, because it was Ovietime that started it. President was not at plenary. You just mentioned it now, and I've tried to explain it. And
no, I didn't say anything about plenary.
Look, there is a detailed story on it in the cable, why the president was not there, and I've tried to give the information. On day 1, day 2, that's the first day and second day after the opening of the summit, the usual thing is that they will take statements from national leaders, national statements. In 2021, I think, President Buhari spoke, but in 2022, we were absent at the Cop28. So Nigeria didn't make any national statement. This year, Nigeria was listed number 36 on the list, but it's strictly for presidents and heads of government. So at 4:10 p.m. or thereabouts, President Tinubu left the meeting to go and have a meeting with another president. After the meeting that he went for, he had to rush again to meet with Olaf Scholz. So because of that, he missed the slot for Nigeria on that day. Now, Balarabe Lawal, Minister of Environment, was then supposed to speak on his behalf, but because they were taking presidents, the president of Cyprus has just finished, they just skipped Nigeria. And the schedule is that on day 9, the president's national statement can still be read. So I don't think we should make big capital out of that. Now, the second point, the president at this carbon meeting that he had the opportunity to talk about Nigeria looking forward to eco-friendly future, sustainable energy, calling for partnership with Nigeria, and also saying at the same time that Nigeria is committed to ending gas flaring and that we are committed to the objectives of the Conference of Parties. Well, whether we will succeed with gas flaring remains to be seen. Now, as for the delegation, it is not true that we have the same number of delegates as China. I said this also earlier this morning. China has 822 delegates. Nigeria is reported as the delegation with the 4th largest delegation. But I share Mr. Peter Obi's view that we should focus more on production rather than using money, wasting money, sending large delegations. So that is the essential point he's making. The statistics in terms of delegation is provided by an AI company called StatiSense. So it's not as if it's the politicians that made up the numbers. It's a group called StatiSense, and nobody has contradicted those figures that have been given. The hosts have over 4,000, as I pointed out, followed by Brazil with 3,008, followed by China with 822, and then Nigeria with 1,411. That's the figure. But my concern here is, why is it that organized labor has not spoken up? Where is the NLC to even ask questions? This is the kind of critical moment, that we expect NLC to speak up in defense of the interests of the people. If you are saying you want more wages for workers, you want this for workers and all that, and you see a situation where can we call the members of the delegation workers also, going to spend 13 days at a conference.
By the way, they also sent delegates.
590 from the federal government side alone. That takes me to the example of Chakwera, Lazarus Chakwera, the president of Malawi. Recently, Lazarus Chakwera said that Malawi is going through austerity and that Malawi needs to save money. Because of that, Malawi is not at this Cop28. And he says even he as the president, he will not travel until further notice so that the country can save money. So we can learn from the example of Chakwera in Malawi. But maybe, I'm just second guessing. maybe the reason every Nigerian wants to be in Dubai is because they had that the funds, the loss and damage fund, which anybody can access if you can make your case, will be determined at this Cop28. And they may have heard that there will be donations. And already there are pledges coming from Germany, from Japan, so but the formula for sharing that money has not been worked out. So it's just youth Congress going there begging for money, state governments begging for money. It's still a long way from now. Those pledges have to be fulfilled before everybody can think that the loss and damage fund is an international cake that they can get a share of.
Maybe some of them are at the shopping mall at this point, but using their credit cards so in hopes that they will get the funds, right? I heard you early this morning, Dr. Abati. So legendary. Well, on a lighter note, still in Dubai, a video showing a moment. A woman tried to block President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during a group photograph with King Charles III and other dignitaries went viral over the weekend. The president's photographer immediately called on security to shoo the woman aside. Let's take a look.
Your Majesty, Excellencies, all distinguished guests, if you wouldn't mind looking towards the media bank all at one time with a big smile, I'd be very grateful. Thank you so much.
She's blocking the president of Nigeria. Sir, she's blocking the president of Nigeria, so can she move a little bit? Thank you.
I was so proud of that photographer. Please move. Why would you be blocking the president of Nigeria? Ayo, quickly.
I was looking for our own president. Say what you mean. Well, how dare you block the president? So well done for defending. He needs a national honor for that. Well, I mean, really great to see the president. Like you meant, we've talked about the fact that he's engaged with a number of leaders from around the world, trying to woo them to invest in Nigeria, especially with the energy transition. So I think that's really fantastic, and looking forward to even more from COP28.
Right, all right. I mean, our final story was about Davido in the United States being honored as a citizen of Georgia. If we can pull up that video of Davido before we close. Congratulations to the singer.
All right, we have a special guest here today. I'd like to introduce David Adeleke, also known as Davido, a Nigerian-American Afrobeats artist who was born in Atlanta, a Georgia native. Is up in the gallery. He is